So I bet that your child has actually never had a temper tantrum if they are under the age of 2. And that might surprise you. And I really want to kind of stake my claim on the top of this hill because I have a little one who's just under 2. She's about to be 2. And I must say that when it comes to my child, and her willfulness and her desire to exert her yes and exert her no and assert herself as a little entity, there are very few situations where she's actually a part of a complex. There's very few interactions with her where there's a power struggle unless I start it. Number one. And number two, unless there is some other like lack of preparation in the environment that is preventing us from engaging on a level that's more collaborative and cooperative. So, what I mean to say is, our little ones really don't start anything, even if they will completely commit to trying to finish it with tears, with exhaustion, with exclamation, no matter where they are, right? But I think we misname this as a tantrum when in reality, no matter what the cause, we're really looking at what I'm going to call a meltdown. And I'm calling it that because whereas in a tantrum, we're talking about a child who is trying to engage in a power struggle, they want things their way, and there is a manipulative factor that's often associated with tantrums, right? This desire to get my way. When we're thinking about meltdowns, there is an engagement that's happening. We are either hyperstimulated, we are hypersensitive in the moment, and we have lost our tools and we've lost the grasp of our practices that help us to manage and regulate our emotions. And so we begin to literally melt down, right? The cooling rods in the nuclear facility that is our emotional center has been lifted, and all of the free molecules and atoms and all that good stuff that makes the energy go is now on its own. It is out, and it is bubbling, it is percolating, and it is spilling over. Okay. And so these meltdown moments are, they're not personal. They're not interpersonal. They're not manipulative. They're not a I want to get my way expression. These meltdowns are I need help. I'm overwhelmed. I can't do this. There's a thing I want. There's a thing I need. I can't express myself. And now I've got to scream. I need this thing. I want this thing. I have no words. So I'm using my ability to sit down. I am melting down. The things that I need, that I want, are not happening for me. You there, adult, help, right? And if we as adults engage in that from a place of mistrust and from a place of control, we're almost promising our child that the only thing that will happen is they will double down on this until they get fully tired out, or we get too frustrated and then lean on our own emotional outbursts to manage the situation, which really ends up looking like an exertion of control of one adult over a child who's honestly under 5 years old almost always. When we're thinking about these so-called temper tantrums and the terrible twos and the terrific threes, and all these challenging times, right? These defiant times. But we're not actually looking at defiance. What we're looking at is a small person, right? Without all of the faculties that we have as an adult, theoretically. looking to us, the adults, to see them, see their needs, and help them. And so I want to talk about meltdowns in Montessori as a gentle parent. So I, as you all know, am a part of the authoritative parenting sect. I think that it's honestly the only valid parenting style. I think that negligent parenting is not in fact parenting. It's something totally different and problematic at best, especially when it looks like emotional neglect in practice. There are a lot of negative outcomes that come along with permissive parenting as well as authoritarian parenting. And so I am just the biggest opponent. Like, I am the natural born ops to those so-called parenting styles. I don't think they're valid. I think they're mostly harmful, and I think we need to turn away from them overall. But with that said, I am camp authoritative parenting. And I think it's very important that when we're facing emotional distress, that the first thing we do as adults is gird our loins. Okay. So, how often are you taking time to ask yourself and check in with yourself and see, are you prepared to parent today? And I know that that sounds a little bit silly, but have you taken the literal steps that are necessary for you to have the bandwidth to manage your child, right? To see them where they are, to meet them where they are, to help them succeed, and to give them the tools that they need to succeed, to demonstrate co regulation to your child in those moments when they are going to inevitably melt down because their brains are not done developing and they literally don't have the physiological tools necessary, and they haven't lived long enough to develop the practices that can help them in those moments where there's a gap between what they want to do, what they need to do, what they can express, and time, right? If there's too much time between what they want and how they can express themselves, that can be very frustrating. You see that over time, and then they start to melt down. It's just what happens. But the question is, can you as a parent use the tools that you have available to you to fill your cup so that you are there and available to your child during that meltdown? So I want to talk about a couple of things that I have used as tools to help me in the meltdown, because my child has never had a tantrum in her life. She's never tried to manipulate me, but she has had meltdowns. She has had moments where everything was just too much and she needed my help. And here are the things that I did to really give her the tools she needed to succeed. So the first one is lead time. And what is lead time, Sonia? Well, lead time is when you really plan what it is that your day is going to look like. And it doesn't have to look like a schedule. Lead time is all about baking into your practice, whatever it is that you do, whether it's your calendar or whether it's just vibes, or something in between, but that you're accounting for the buffer zone for transition for your child so that they're not staunchly going from one thing to the next thing. And I'll give you an example. When I first started taking my daughter to school and she started the toddler program, I was dealing with her just crying. As soon as we would get to the car, I'd put her in the car and she would start crying profoundly. She was very, very distressed. And I realized that this 15-month-old is not like trying to negotiate with me. She's not trying to manipulate me. This isn't a tantrum. She's upset. So, what can I do to bake in enough time that she needs so that she can feel like this is going to be okay? And I can use my skills as a parent to recognize what those needs are and bake it into the practice of pickup. And so, what that looked like was when I would pick her up, I would ask her how her day was as we walked to the car. I would ask her if she wanted to walk or if she wanted me to pick her up. Every single time she wants me to pick her up, but sometimes I put her down once she got her first snuggle in and, like, got my scent and knew everything was going to be okay. Then sometimes she would want to walk. We'd go to the car and I would say, do you want to go to sit with mommy or do you want to sit in your chair? And she would say, sit with mommy. Well, not these words. She was 15 months old at the beginning. But I would tell her this and I would not expect an answer. I would just sit with her. Um, and I was practicing these so-called choices, right? Because she could demonstrate what she wanted to do. She could understand some things, even though she couldn't speak. So when she would hold me tight, that's an answer, right? That says, I want to be right next to you. Please don't put me in that chair. So we sit in the front seat together, listen to a little music. I would sing with her. I would feed her, breastfeed her. I would comfort her until I saw that she was very satisfied, right? And this could be like anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes, but I would bake in enough time that it didn't matter. I would come pick her up a little bit earlier than necessary and I would sit with her. And so the overall net time that I spent picking her up was close to what it should have been otherwise, but without the tears, without the resentment building, without the feeling that she would not have her needs met. And so now, after months and months and months, she's about to be two. After over half a year of doing this, now she can speak, which is very helpful. But when we do our pickups, what we see is just this night and day experience. She's in control of herself. We do still have tears sometimes when I put her in the chair because she's like, "Wait, why am I going in this chair?" But then I get her little stuffed animal from the back seat, like either her stuffed pig or her stuffed butterfly, and she's like, "Oh, we're just going to go drive home." And she knows in her head, we're going home. And then when we get home, she's okay. And she knows that the next thing is going to happen. And so, yeah, we still have that baked in amount of time, but lead time is a huge lifesaver in preventing the meltdown. Let's see. So another thing is pattern preparation. So how often do you let your child's patterns prepare, like get, how often do you prepare for your child's patterns and preferred way of engaging with the world around them? Now, I ask this question knowing that a lot of folks are going to be like, my child doesn't get preferences. That's not for children to determine. That's for me as a parent to decide, and they should be following my lead. Good luck with that because they're going to eventually start having tantrums going that route because you're creating a power struggle where they have to follow you rather than giving them the opportunity to be a part of the process. Do you want to have no say in what you eat as an adult? Do you want to have no say in what you do as an adult? No. And do you remember how crappy it felt to know that your voice didn't matter to your parents if you grew up that way? And if you didn't grow up that way, why are you doing that to your kid now? Right? There are options that we can explore. We have free will as parents. We don't have to just repeat a script. And so, what I will say is that yes, we have our schedule. Yes, we have our patterns before we have our children, but children are not meant to be molded and smeltered into whatever fits our life before they existed. Any other relationship we would make space. And I am going to impress upon you today that in addition to lead time and creating space within your schedule, is the need to make space within your heart and within your family system for your child's voice. Now, this is huge. Recently, my child has started to really love to go on the swings. And rather than tell her, we have to go inside, we just got home, I'm tired, which sometimes I have to do, right? But it's a sometimes. Once I started to realize that there was a pattern, I said, okay, if I drink my water before I go pick her up, and if I prepare myself to let her pattern be a part of our day, then I can take her to the park. I can push her on the swings for 30 minutes, maximum ish. She doesn't usually want to stay there for that long anyway. But if I take her to the park and we push on the swings for, let's say, 30 minutes, and then I walk home with her, she has gotten a chance to exert some of that energy. She's gotten a chance to connect. She's had her moment of fun and novelty, and it wears off, and then she's ready to go home, which now, when I used to have to take her home because she loved the park so much. Now, when I take her to the park, she knows this is a part of the day. This is her day. Like, this is her part of the day. This is just for her. She gets to have her special time. And then we go home. Allowing her to be a part of the process of what the day's pattern is going to look like helps the meltdown become a melt in, right? Where she just expresses joy, right? Instead of frustration, where she's able to feel deeper connection with me as her mother, where she knows that her value is intrinsic and that her voice will be heard. And so, is it going to be perfect? And is she never going to have a meltdown? No. The point is that how we meet those meltdowns with space, with sincerity, with understanding, with curiosity, and with an open mind allows ourselves and our children to be on the same side and face a problem together rather than to be playing tug of war with each other and create the conditions for a tantrum to truly erupt. And isn't it wonderful when we give ourselves the space to actually succeed in the long term? I know what I just described sounds like it takes too much time. No one has enough time in the day. How am I going to do that? That just doesn't work for me. I know an easy way to do that without doing any of that work. And it's just to tell them what it is. And then they have to do the things that I say. But when you get into that authoritarian space, authoritarian space, and you take away choice and you take away voice, or if you get into a permissive space where you just let them cry, but you don't take the time to learn and you just start throwing treats at them. Or if you become neglectful and you say, they'll just cry it out, don't worry about it. That's just what kids do. It's not that those aren't real responses that a tired, exhausted parent will exhibit. I do it sometimes, not all the time, I'll be honest. It's really not my standard, but it does happen. And in those rare moments where I catch myself and go, oh my gosh, I'm slipping, what I do is I say, okay, well, first of all, this isn't a character trait. It's just something that I've done that I can slip up, that I can lose track of how I'm engaging with my daughter, and I can come back to center. I can tell myself it's okay, and then give myself the space to come back to a place where I am actively and consciously creating and cultivating a space for my child and co-creating with her as my co-creative partner. Um, and I invite you all to consider, what would that look like for you? Could you take small 5-minute moments, right? And see how those little changes, even in just how you engage with your child, might actually create the kind of yes environment psychologically that can really feed into the yes environment that the Montessori method of education provides for them in the physical world around them, right? And in their independent learning, that you can create a space of interdependent, co creative learning with your child at home that they take with them into the world, that they feel strengthened by, that they feel empowered by, so that, well, you create the little leader that you're trying to create right now, right? Because I think all of us want the absolute best for our kids. All of us believe that we are doing the absolute best that we can do for them. And I'm not here to criticize because, like I said, this is something that I struggle with too. It's not an everyday dunk session. And sometimes I feel like I'm taking a half court shot with absolutely no sleep. And I've never played baseball. I've never played basketball. I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm just trying to get it. I'm just trying to get it from sun up to sundown, keep that kid alive. Yeah. Sometimes the struggle is so real. But we don't have to limit ourselves to the lowest energy version of ourselves, the lowest energy option. And sometimes making those micro investments in the schedules that we keep and creating a sense of collaborative, co creative essence between ourselves and our children can be enough to unlock a version of our child we don't even know exists. A version of our child who one day when they see us cry, which they will, and I'll tell you, my daughter saw me cry real hard. I was having my own meltdown. And this is how I knew that this parenting style is working. I was crying my eyes out. I felt like I shouldn't even be alive. I felt like the worst person to ever people. I felt like my daughter deserved a better mother, and I could not believe she was stuck with me, that she was stuck with my mistakes, that she was stuck with a loser lady who was never going to make it, who was never going to get love, who was never going to provide her with another parent figure, who was never going to make her safe in the way that she deserves to be, to provide every little desire she could have or big desire that she might dream of. I felt like I should not be so lucky as to breathe the same air as that little girl. And I cried a cry that had me deep in my voice. I was deep in my lungs, just a gut wrenching cry. And my daughter, but I was trying to stifle it because I'm a mom. But in the last quarter of the first year of her life, she climbed up into my lap. She hugged me. She said, "Mama sad?" And I was sad. And I said, "Yes, baby, but I'm okay." And she said, "It's okay. Mama's sad." And she rubbed my head and she patted my back. And I was trying to just snap back together. But I realized it was okay to cry, that she knew that she was okay, that she wasn't taking care of me and parentified. She was just exhibiting the skill set that I use with her every time that she cries. Almost. The skill set that she saw me use with her every time she felt dysregulated. And she wanted to co-regulate for me. It was the first time this ever happened in our lives together. And I looked at this little girl and she looked at me and she said, "Mama sad?" I said, "I'm okay, baby." She said, "Okay." And I kind of dried my eyes. I got in bed and she kicked the crap out of me for the rest of the night as we both attempted to sleep. And I knew all was right with the world. I knew everything was going to be okay. But this little one, she had a toolkit that she was already ready to use. And it all came down to micro investments early on. But I don't think there's ever a too late to use these tools. Because if we've been in a marriage for a long time with another adult, right? And things get rocky, things get tricky. I've never been married, I don't know. But I hear and I've seen. It doesn't always have to be that we just say, "Oh, this isn't working, goodbye." Right? Some marriages, people recognize that there's something that their partner needs and they work to understand how they can connect with their partner, how they can make a micro investment in creating a sense of novelty, making sure that their partner's needs are integrated into the life that they're living, that they schedule time for being fun with each other, whether it's again on vibes, but an intentional interaction and an intentional insertion of that fun into their relationship, or whether it's scheduling a day that you give yourself a date night or you give yourself, a little bit of intimacy, whatever it is, that you get a babysitter and you go outside, or you all stay inside and there's a babysitter and you just go off into your nook. But whatever it is that you do. And I think that when it comes to our parenting, we don't see that as a relationship, but we are in a relationship with our children. The most trusting, the most needful, the most magnetic and magnetized, the most beautiful relationship that there can be, where this being relies on us and we in turn rely on them. We just don't always acknowledge it. And so to create an interdependent system that continually is growing with them, that shows them the way, and that gives them the space to melt down and not be bad kids. I think that's something that we can do. I think that's something worth doing. I think that's something we can try. And I wanted to share that with you all today. So I hope that you enjoyed this story. I hope the tools were helpful to you. Do you have any questions? What do you think? How do you manage all this stuff? I mean, it can be really tricky out here for us parents, and I am always up for learning. I'm always up for listening. So pop up in the comments. Let me know what you think. If you love the vibes here, please subscribe again. I am posting here and just building community, hoping to connect with you. So, um, I will look forward to seeing you real soon in the next one. But for now, take care. Bye.